My name is Brandon. I'm an alcoholic. And when I walk into a 12-step fellowship and I put my hand up and I qualify to be a part of the community and I say that my name is Brandon, I'm an alcoholic, all that simply means for me is that I'm defiant by nature. I hate authority and I refuse to conform. Because I don't know about you, but I possess this job. And this job places me in a lot of positions I don't like to be in. And it allows me to feel a lot of feelings I don't like to feel. And that job consists of knowing everything. So when I walk into a fellowship of a bunch of like-minded people who literally have been where I'm at, and they politely suggest what I may want to do in order to better my outcome, I usually politely suggest why they should fuck off. Because I know, right? I know. And for a long time, I believed that I did know because my resume read one of which who has a pretty good idea on how to go about this weird thing called life, which is an acquired taste anyways. I never graduated high school. I was expelled in the 11th grade as a direct result of my addiction. Later on in life, I got my GED in the penitentiary. Came from better, knew better. Mother, nuclear physicist, on the board of Mercy Hospital in Baltimore City. Brother, an attorney in the White House who practices pensions and benefits. Father who died as a direct result of the disease of addiction, right? Never had a job a day in his life, taught me one thing in life, and that was if and when I went to prison, how to conduct myself. Unfortunately, he acquired the liking of crack cocaine. Since then, his body shut down. He's no longer with us. So I came from living in that after-school special, that cautionary tale of what to do, but more importantly, what not to do. And as a matter of fact, I excelled at everything I was going to do in my life to prove a point why I would never become that bum of a father. And for me, what that looked like is at 7 years old, I received my first skateboard. And that moment that board touched my hand, I knew I was going to be a skateboarder for the rest of my life. I ate it, I breathed it, I slept it, I dreamt it. At 15, I'm touring the world with Pal Peralta and the likes of professional skateboarders by the name of Bucky Lasik, Tony Hawk, Steve Caballero. Really bright young kid with a promising future. Because I don't know about any of you out there, but as a child I had goals, I had dreams, I had aspirations, I had ambitions. I was going to be somebody. And the reason I want to go back to the beginning and talk to you about how I said my name is Brandon, I'm an alcoholic, and what that means for me is because the disease of addiction does not discriminate. From Yale or jail, the White House or the outhouse, the results are all the same, and 1 out of 3 people will be affected. And I'm giving you this really in-depth description of what my childhood looked like to let you know that I wasn't a child that was born feeling in lack of, or in need of, or in search of. As a matter of fact, skateboarding did for me at a very young age what drugs and alcohol would do for me at a later age. Right? You give me that skateboard. At the age of 7, you put me in a room with the world's prettiest models. I'll not only believe that they've been waiting for me, but that they're dying to marry me. Right? Like drugs and alcohol later on will produce that same delusional narrative that I would really believe was reality. But nonetheless, I have a really bright, promising future as a skateboarder, and I'm rising the ranks, and I'm doing as any kid with a dream would do, and somewhere along the lines, dear old dad came back with a present and blessed me with my genetic disposal of my addiction. But I don't recall the first time I ingested a drink or a drug. I don't, right? It wasn't like I sniffed that line, I hit that pipe, I swallowed that pill, I shot that bag, I swallowed that drink. And I didn't have that aha moment, that reason for which I'm going to get up out of bed for every day. That's not my story. I don't recall the first time I ingested a drink or a drug, but what I do recall, as sure as the day is long, the very first time that someone attempted to stand between me and a drink or a drug. And you're going to hear in my very short talk that I'm very descriptive, I'm extremely graphic, and as a matter of fact, I keep my past married to my present. Because the moment that this alcoholic forgets the pain that brought him through treatment center number 13 doors at the ripe young age of 38, begging to God for one more chance. It's not a matter of if, but when history repeats itself, as it generally does. And it's very easy for me to give you my talk because it's my story. It doesn't really require much preparation or rehearsal. It just requires me to give you an honest account of what my reality looks like when I revert back to possessing that job that consists of knowing everything. And what happened with that was this. I was on a tour with a bunch of professional skateboarders, and we were in downtown Atlanta. And we had finished this demo, and I was caught with a pocket full of drugs, and one of the team managers said, "Brandon, get rid of the drugs or get off the tour." And as any good drug addict does, I take the drugs, I throw them down the sewer. We finish the demo, we go back to the hotel. A young woman that I meet there drives me back to said sewer, and I fish the drugs out of the sewer. Short story long, I'm now kicked off the team because I'm caught with the drugs. But you see, I have this delusional alcoholic brain that lies to me in my own voice, and it always makes me believe the unbelievable. And it would tell me things like the skateboarding world needs me, it cannot go on without me, and I am an asset. And looking back in hindsight, the skateboarding world did not need me. It went on quite fine without me, and I was a liability. But you see, I was the last person to ever realize that because I possessed this job that consists of knowing everything. So I'm now abruptly kicked off this tour. I have this newfound freedom, and the following morning I'm awoken at my mother's house, and the phone's put to my ear, and it's my team captain from PAL. And he said, "Novak, we have one of two options we could do with you. We could put you into treatment, you could save your life, you can continue to skate for Pal Peralta, or you can quit the team." From 7 to 17, I ate it, I breathed it, I slept it, I dreamt it, I had become it. There was no reason for a plan B, a trait, or an option. I've always prided myself on being the kind of individual to where if I believe it, I can see it, not the other way around. And all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, someone is attempting to stand between me and my drugs and alcohol. I don't have a breath of fresh air in my lungs when I say I quit. Looking back, the disconnection from reality that it's already taken place at the ripe young age of 17, and I haven't even had the privilege of entering into my first treatment center yet, is insane. I have no idea the world of pain that I am about to embark on. A few months pass. Tours are no longer being booked. Flights are no longer being scheduled. Video parts are no longer being produced. Packages of product are no longer being sent to my house. You see, because in order to achieve such simple things in life, I have to have conversations with important people using words like honesty and reliable and dependable and saying what I mean and meaning what I say, and actions, behaviors, and words like that do not help me get one more, so I avoid it like the fucking plague. say about 4 months into this newfound freedom, my mother and my girlfriend come to me one day and they said, Brandon, we have a great idea for you. And I said, what's that? They said, we want you to go to treatment. Now, I had just turned down this offer from my team captain at Pal Peralta, right? What in the fuck makes you think I'd accept it from my mother and my girlfriend? But I think about it for a moment and I said, you know what? That's an amazing idea. A, I have the time. B, I'll report to said treatment center. And I'll report back to my mother and my girlfriend why I'm not you fucking nut jobs, nor will I ever be. You see, this is all just an overreaction at best. They just caught me on a bad time, in a bad way, on a bad day. Tomorrow is going to be different. Tomorrow is going to be the fucking day. And I mean it in my heart of hearts. Strap me up to a polygraph. I will pass with flying colors and have every police officer in the nation pat me on the back saying, Mr. Novak, if everyone is as honest as you are, the world would be a safer place to live in. That's how much I believe when I tell you tomorrow is going to be the day. But you see, unfortunately, I wake up tomorrow to repeat yesterday's actions, and I'm stuck in Groundhog's Day for 22 goddamn years. But nonetheless, magically, as I agreed to go to this treatment center, a bag is packed. The car is idling outside, and before I know it, I'm whisked away, and off I go to my very first treatment center at the ripe young age of 17 in Baltimore City. And as quick as they drop me off, they leave. And I'm met outside by a very nice elderly woman with a very welcoming spirit. And she walks up to me and she said, sweetheart, are you Mr. Novak? And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, come with me. And she walks me into this facility and takes me directly into this really big, empty cafeteria. There's not a soul in sight. There's these real big, bright interrogation style lights shining down on me. I'm ill as a research monkey. I'm detoxing off heroin. And she said, wait here, sweetheart, I'll be back. And with that, she leaves abruptly. And out of nowhere, this older black gentleman walks into this cafeteria and he walks directly up to me and he looks at me and he says, white boy, what are you doing here? I said, heroin. He said, how old are you? 17. He said, do yourself a favor and don't turn 18 in a place like this. And as quick as he came, he left. He nor I had no idea the significance that simple conversation was ever going to have on my life. Now, mind you, I only entered this facility to prove a point why I didn't belong in this facility. Right? I'm focusing only on the differences, not the similarities. After all, you people are my father. Fuck you. Right? This is just an overreaction. Tomorrow is going to be different. You know what I could tell you about that gentleman? Where the 4 teeth were placed in his mouth, because you see, at the time I had all mine. He's black, I'm white. He's 70 to 75, I'm 17. He smokes crack, I successfully do heroin. He's fucking homeless, for Christ's sakes. I live with my mother and my girlfriend. God bless that man. I am truly so grateful he found the answers for which he's in search of. I am. I mean that. You know what I can't tell you about that facility? I can't tell you my therapist's name. I can't tell you about that relapse prevention packet they're shoving down my throat. or those healthy and unhealthy boundaries they're trying to instill in me. Because if I could tell you about those things, that means that I can relate to being one of you people, and I want no fucking part. You're my father. Fuck you. I successfully completed that 30-day treatment center. I did it. I didn't turn 18 in a place like that. How dare that old fucking fool of a junkie think that he could predict my future? Just another drug addict, lying old man like my father. Go fucking figure. How fucking dare him think he could predict my future? Furthermore, disconnecting me for community and solution, making me believe that I have been right the whole time and they're just a bunch of junkies that will continue to let me down. I turned 21, 22, 24, 25, 27, 29, 31, 32, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38 in a jail or a treatment center. Every year, I'd sit on whatever bunk or whatever jail I happened to be in, or whatever bed of whatever facility, of whatever treatment center I'd happened to be in, and think back to that older gentleman. And say to myself, maybe, just maybe, if me, myself, Brandon Novak would have listened to him with an open mind and an open heart, I would not continuously find myself in this situation year after year after year after year, meaning that was fully fucking self-induced. I continue to create this picture or outlook for what you see me in. In between all these treatment centers and incarcerations and birthdays, I'm in and out of treatment. I'm in and out of treatment. And I would come into these establishments and I would like loiter with the intent to recover. Right? Focus only on saving my face. Right? Always losing my ass in the process. Because I really believed that if I could fill this internal void with an external solution, which generally comes by way of money, property, prestige, or pussy, my life would get fucking better. I believed that. I believed that social acceptability equaled personal recovery. So as long as like the home was big enough, the accounts were high enough, the woman was pretty enough, the car was new enough, I had to be doing well because by society's standards, look, he seems to has a grasp on this thing called reality. But the truth of the matter is I can't keep a needle out of my arm to save my life. Somehow I trip and I fall into those movies Jackass and these TV shows Viva La Bam. And the character I play, the role that I exude, is really a junkie's dream. The more outlandish my behaviors are, the more outrageous the behavior becomes, the higher the ratings go, the more in demand I am, the more money I make, the more dope I shoot, wash, rinse, repeat. Paired with the fact that I have a delusional alcoholic brain that lies to me in my own voice and it always makes me believe the unbelievable. Paired with the fact that I've been diagnosed with a disease that tells me I don't have a fucking disease on a daily basis. Paired with the fact that if I believe I can just get one more opportunity, if I could just get one more woman, if I could just get one more home, if I can just get out of this state, get out of this predicament, get off of parole, get off of probation, successfully complete my sentence, I won't return back to the man I was before. I believe that. I believe that. But you see, I'm not wired like you. We're not the same in those regards, and thank God I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. Every time I'd end up in a treatment center, I'd end up in a 12-step meeting, I'd end up in a psychiatric unit, I'd end up in a hospital, and I'd land in a seat of a program within a fellowship that literally has the ability to save my life. And you see, I'd outthink myself right out of it. Because this is what I will say for certain. Not one addict I've ever come across landed in this outcome because we took the short bus to school. Quite the contrary. I got to where I'm at today because I'm too smart for my own fucking good. And then again, I land in a seat that has the ability to save my life, and I outthink myself right out of it, because recovery is one of these mind fuck of a things that work so well, I stopped doing it. Try that for size. I stopped fucking doing it. Because you see, I don't know about you, but this is why we're wired differently and we are not the same. The very same pain that places me in a position to possess the willingness to do what I was never able to do before, which is reach my hand out, ask for help, and then crazy enough, follow through with it. All of a sudden, my life starts getting really good really quick. Keep in mind, I came into recovery because there was lack of resources, there was lack of finances, there was lack of love, there was lack of cars, there was lack of money, there was lack of life, there was lack of everything. That's what brought me into a place of willingness. And now, born out of that place of desperation comes this eagerness to buy into the process of sobriety and acquire this new way of life that people keep selling me on. And with that, I get everything back that brought me in here, right? My schedule becomes full. I become hireable. I become employable. I become friendable. I become lovable. And now the very same thing that I was doing initially in the beginning to acquire these blessings back in my life, provide me with a really full life and a packed schedule. And now I look at those things that got me to where I'm at today as a fucking inconvenience. I don't come in here today to protest to understand the future or tell you what sobriety looks like. I don't. My resume reads 13 inpatient treatment centers. I've lost count of outpatients and detoxes. My mother has bought me a plot. People have taken life insurance policies out on me. May 24th, 2015, the day before I walked into my very last treatment center, God willing, I found myself coming to after being on life support at the very same hospital that my mother's a nuclear physicist on the board of, called Mercy Hospital in Baltimore City. I had been medevaced to 4 different hospitals in 4 different states from 4 different overdoses. My mother sold 3 homes to pay for me to go to 2 different treatment centers. In the beginning of my alcoholism, she would get on her knees and she would pray to God, please, God, do not let tonight be that night. Please, God, do not let tonight be that night that I receive a call that my son has succumbed to his addiction. God, please, not tonight. Don't let tonight be the night I receive that dreaded call. Cut 2, I'm a 38-year-old homeless heroin addict who wants to kill himself on a daily fucking basis. I just don't want to hurt myself in the process. I'm terrible at suicide because I keep waking up. I'm in a position in life where I'm so low the curb looks like a goddamn skyscraper. My days are spent standing on the corner of Eastern Avenue and Patterson Park letting men suck my dick just to acquire one more bag of heroin. My nights are spent sleeping in a shooting gallery in West Baltimore. Everything that I own in this life fits into a bag that doubles as my pillow. 8 scarves, 2 jackets, 3 socks, a stick of deodorant, a needle, a spoon, and a restraining order is everything that I own as a 38-year-old homeless heroin addict. How the fuck did I get here? How did I get here? Because I told you when I was there, I had goals, I had dreams, I had aspirations, I had ambitions. I was going to be somebody, but more importantly, who I was not going to be was my drug addict father. Now I make him look like a walk in the park. How'd I get here? What I've learned in my life is that today my life is live forward and learn backwards. And by the grace of God, today I've remained sober continuously long enough to land in a place where it's very easy for me to look back and recognize the synchronicity of every one of life's events that have landed me right here, right now, before you beautiful ladies and gentlemen, that allow me to see that the God of my understanding has been doing so much more for me, so much bigger and so much broader than my feeble mind could ever fucking conceive of. You see, for the better part of 22 years, I simply rearranged the furniture on the Titanic. And I really believed that this equation was going to create this outcome that was going to be favorable to a better ending for me. And I really believed that. But the truth of the matter was I was refusing to accept responsibility for my own actions, and alcoholism was doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It would place me in positions around people that would allow me to never have to look at me or my behaviors, and continuously justify and minimize the severity of my alcoholism by deflecting it onto you, to him, to her, or more importantly, my fucking father. Right? So it was doing what it was intended to do. And I'd look back and I'd say, like, my mother's a nuclear physicist. My brother's an attorney in the White House. My father died as a direct result of the disease of addiction. In these movies that broke box office records. Skateboarder. Published author who's written an addiction memoir that was a top seller that has recently been revised in its 12th edition. Had done some things in life that people would equate to success, happiness, maybe even fucking dream of doing. How do I keep getting beat this bad by my disease? Like, how do I get beat this bad? And I'm not talking a scratched knee or a swelled up lip. I'm talking teeth pulled out one at a time. I'm talking skinned alive slowly. I'm talking eyes severed from my brain. I'm talking ears taken from my head. Like, those are the beatings I got on a regular basis, and I couldn't understand why, because I pride myself on being a highly intelligent individual who comes from great stock. But again, I possessed that job that consisted of knowing everything. And one day I had the grand realization that, you know what I do know? Is that I don't fucking know. And my very best thinking placed me in a position where I'm walking into my 13th inpatient treatment center. Everything that I own consists of 8 scarves, 2 jackets, 3 socks, a stick of deodorant, a needle, a spoon, and a restraining order. It fits into a bag that doubles as my pillow. And I'm begging to God for one more chance. That's what the fuck I do know. And the world had a way of right-sizing me. Because again, I told you I was always preoccupied or thrown off track by money, property, prestige, and pussy. Right? It always got me off my square. It always kind of took my mind away from what it should have been on, which was recovery. And one day I came to, and I had nothing else to divert me from my attention to giving it to recovery. There were no more women. There were no more job opportunities. There were no more homes. There were no more accounts. There were no more cars. And my higher power did for me what I was never capable of doing for myself. It placed me in a position where I was alone with myself, by myself, and no one else to look at me with me but fucking me. Whew. And for the first time in my life, I did as recovery requires. For the first time in my life, I fucking sat still and I gave my disease the time, attention, and respect that it always fucking called for. And for the first time in my life, I started to acquire. And for the first time in my life, I started to acquire some information, but better yet, a clear understanding of the disease that I was actually up against. And looking back, no wonder I got beat so bad for so long. I was fighting the wrong fucking opponent. I really believed that the heroin was the problem. I really believed that the cocaine was the problem. I believed that the crack was the problem. The pills were the problem. The bottle was the problem. I thought that if I just sat that down, things would get better. Little did I know, because I know, that the drugs and the alcohol were never my fucking problem. I was so far off the mark. I was fighting the wrong opponent. I was showing up at the wrong ring at the wrong time, fighting the wrong fucking person. Therefore, I got beat the fuck every time because I had no idea or clear understanding about who or what I was really up against. So off the fucking mark. I was showing up at the wrong place at the wrong time to fight the wrong goddamn opponent. And then as God saw fit to right-size me, to remove me from every distraction that got me off my square and place me in a position where I was with myself, by myself, looking at myself, I had no other option. I started to acquire some information. I acquired some knowledge. I became accountable for my actions and my behaviors. Ignorance was no longer bliss. And I realized that I had to uncover the problem in order to discover the problem if I ever had any fucking hope of recovering from the problem. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. The skies parted. I walked across the fucking sea. And I saw recovery for what it was. And what it was is everything that I thought that I wasn't. I was wired in a way that to fight was to win, to fight was to live, to fight was to survive, to fight was to make one more day, to fight was to get one more blast. And then I walk into recovery and they tell me to fight is to die. To fight is to lose. To fight is to relapse. To fight is to never stand a fucking chance. And they said that needle that hangs out of your arm, that's not your fucking problem. That's not your problem. That bottle of wine that you keep to your lips, that's not your problem. The lines of coke that you sniff, that's not your problem. The speedballs that you inject, they're not your problems. They're not my problems. For the better part of 22 years, I thought that that was my problem. And I would attempt to find recovery through abstinent-based programs. And I would sit down the needle, I would sit down the pipe, I would sit down the bottle, I would throw away the pills. And I do really well at a 30-day inpatient setting. One might say I'm institutionalized. I can fall into line. I can spit the rhetoric. I'll make you believe that I'm the CFO of the program. It's what I do. That's why my book's called Dream Seller. I sell dreams for a living. I make people believe the unbelievable in order to support and justify, more importantly, enable my alcoholic behaviors. Because it's survival of the fittest. And then you tell me that if I sit that down and I enter into a 30-day program and I do no work on me, that the same alcoholic will drink again. The same addict will use again. So if my intention are to just sit that down, if my intentions are to just sit that down, check in for 30 days, It's not a question of if, but more importantly, when I pick that back up. Because the same addict will use again. The same alcoholic will drink again. For the first time in my life, I created just a big enough gap between me and the last speedball that I stuck into my arm. A 90-day inpatient setting which allowed me to have a moment of clarity to see what my life really looked like was. And for the first time in my life, me, myself, Brandon Novak, was unaccepting of the outcome that I continuously fucking created for myself. Literally in the blink of an eye, I became accountable for my actions. I stopped deflecting. I stopped justifying. I stopped minimizing the severity of my addiction. Started seeing it for what it really was, but more importantly, the part I played that would create these outcomes. Which is why I was in treatment center after treatment center after treatment center, because I had a behavioral pattern that seemed to repeat itself, because no one had taught me that the drugs aren't the problem, the thinking and the attitude and the behavior are the problem. And you continue to think your way into these outcomes that create the only answer to you is just one more bag because tomorrow's going to be fucking different. What? That was fucking an epiphany to me. That was the equivalent of solving world hunger. Right? It landed. For the first time in my life, I was actually acquiring the information that was required in order to overcome my addiction, the thing that I had fell victim to time and time again. No matter how good my intentions were, no matter how much I believed when I told you that I was not going to return back to the thing that I was doing that was creating more pain than anything else in this world. I fucking mean it. I believe it. I'm going to show you. I will pass that polygraph. Nonetheless, a week, a day, a month, I'm right back where I picked up. How? Why? Because I hadn't quite understand that in order for me to secure the ultimate victory, I had to admit complete defeat. So simple, I over-fucking looked it. Right? And that's recovery as a whole. Recovery is a very simple program for overly complicated people. And I had to do away with the accessories of life. They told me in the beginning of sobriety, if I stick to the basics, I'll never have to go back to the basics. Almost 10 years later, owner of multiple treatment centers, owner of multiple sober living homes, interventionist, motivational speaker, author. Today, what I know is that I don't fucking know. And the longer I stay sober, the less that I know. And what a rad concept that is. What a rad concept that is. All I have to do is remain in good standing with my higher power. And if I do what I did yesterday, today, I have a good chance of staying sober till tomorrow. And it's literally just that easy. What I've learned throughout my process is that the disease of addiction is not a death sentence. And your history does not have to dictate your future, but it can absolutely guide and direct it. As long as you're breathing, it's never too late. I'm going to close with this story. There's this father, and he's working from home, and he's swamped. He's inundated with work. No end in sight. And he's watching his child. And his child keeps coming up to him, interrupting him at work, banging him on the knee. Dad, take me out to play. Take me out to play. Take me out to play. Father's thinking to himself, what's a way that I can buy a few days? Just so I can finish the task at hand, get this job completed. Then I'll take him out to play. And the father's trying to think of a way to buy 2, 4, 5 days. And in his office he goes and And on his desk, in his office, he sees a big picture of a puzzle of a world map. And the father thinks to himself, I got it. He completely dismantles the picture of the puzzle of the world map. He throws it on the floor in hundreds of pieces. He said, son, when you put that picture of the puzzle of the world map back together, I'll take you out to play. Father leaves that office, surely thinking he bought 2 4-days, no questions asked. Not even 2 hours later, that kid comes back in, interrupts the father again, bangs him on the knee and said, Dad, I did it. Dad, I did it. Dad's thinking to himself, impossible. He walks back into that office. And sure as the day is long, the picture of the puzzle of the world map's put back together. Father, in complete disbelief, said, son, how did you do it? Son, how did you do it? Son looked at Dad and laughed. He said, Dad, it was simple. Dad, it was so simple. Remember I talked about recovery being a really simple program for overcomplicated people. And it's so right in front of our face that if we're not paying attention, we'll miss it. This is that moment. Son said, Dad, it was so simple. You see, Dad, on the back of the picture of the puzzle of the world map was a picture of a man. I put the man back together. The world fell back in place. Together we stand. Divided, I don't stand a chance. My name is Brandeis. Thank you for your time.